Hello everyone, Kurt Holfitter here, and welcome back to another episode from Holfitter Labs. Today we continue on with Dagger against Sword, and we are looking at what Fiore talks about when you are contending with somebody who has struck a Fendente against you while you're using a dagger. Now, a big part about this play right here that I think is very important for people to understand is that we are not necessarily just thinking about the Fendente itself. That's a Kurtism. If we remember where Fiore has talked about weak points, the throat, the armpits, the groin, the top of the head, all these portions, all these effective strikes that he's mentioned throughout his manual, then to me, making the shape of a blow is the same thing as making as the blow itself. I'm going to explain. You'll see what I'm talking about right here within the video, and that's where again, where I think that this right here, I said this before a couple weeks ago, this play right here, as well as the first play, are all intertwined. It doesn't necessarily matter here which comes first, chicken or egg. It doesn't matter. Both work in a way that allows us to work the thing that Fiore is trying to tell us to do so that we can create these plays and actions. And with that being the case here, we're going to see what that looks like right here, and let's get into it. Okay, so this week here, we're going to be talking about the image here that we're going to show in this right here, which deals with what Fiore says is a Fendente to the head, and I'm contending with it against the dagger. I have some thoughts about this right here, and actually I think the conversation we had last week about countering the first one really kind of goes hand in hand with what we're trying to deal with right here. So, because you're going to see the same kind of concepts before, and again, you understanding what a revezzo is going to make sure to help how to get out of those kind of pieces in context. So, based off the image here, what we see here is he's coming in with a shot, is striking in, he's done a passing cut here, he's coming this right here after my spot, and the guy's coming across like this. We'll switch sides here so we can both see this right here from both angles. So again, from this position, I'm up here like this. Going cross leg. What I think is happening right here is, again, we're going to go back into, from this position, we're going to go right across, because as this comes down, I'm going right back into that first play that we had with the thrust of the lower quarter. So before we ever deal with the shot from above, we understand how to get the blade down and to lock it into position. That's a key factor with all of this. Okay? So in this case right here, he comes in, I cross step with this, I catch this. The image shows it like this right here. I don't really care, honestly. And again, if you've seen the one about the dagger shot we did with sharps, either way of this. I'm not trying to do this, where the blade falls right down and actually hits my arm. I am trying to catch it more within the middle of the dagger towards the tuta, right? I'm coming in, cross here, and I can pop right down, and again, it looks like the image that we saw a couple weeks ago with the dagger being come down for that lower quarter. Okay, so you can see just first, you can see that right here. You thrust low at me, here, right? Same concept, switch sides. Here, same concept right here. I can work the arm. I can do all those things right here, right? With a blow from above, coming across. I can move right here, and I create the same situation. The dagger's in the same spot, the sword's in the same spot here. It does not matter, okay? All that to say right here, so let's talk about some functionality pieces right here that also contend to that as well. Even though he is saying the Fendente, I also believe that he's talking about a thrust to the face. Why? Because a thrust to the face looks like this. It looks a lot like in the end image of the Fendente. It is a spot right here where he's coming to this point right here. It is the same arm structure, everything else, angle that we might have right here to contend with. So again, how might we, if he's using a thrust, so I can't go like, if he goes to the thrust, I can't do this, because that's what's going to happen. So instead, he comes in at me right here, he thrusts, I do the same parry of coming off line, and then work across into this. The angled line we're talking about here is by going cross here. That's my line of attack. With a thrust, it's coming over here in. We're moving outside to the backhand side of their arm. Okay? So whether this is a strike from above or a thrust that goes towards the throat end or the face, it does not matter. If you thrust low at me, I treat it here and come across. If he thrusts low and dips up, I do the same thing and I'm right back in this position. You'll notice I have to create distance with that. It's the same kind of concept. You'll see how, once again, it creates it. And here, I can come across to move into his body, right? Strike from above, stepping into the blow. His line is coming down towards my body this way. I want to get out of the way here. I want to move in, put cover there, turn, and now I'm back into the same spot where I can work against him. Interestingly enough, we find ourselves once again into that play of shutting down the dagger into that place where we move in. All huge factors right there. Another thing to consider when we talk about this is, personally, I think he's talking about use the edge. But it's going to destroy my sword. It's going to mess up my dagger. Well, one thing that sword's not going to do is cut your face in half. So those are other big factors right there to consider for yourself. Okay? So regardless of what happens here, with that blow that's coming down with this, it doesn't matter. As that shot comes into this, I come across with this, and I can smash this elbow, come across, or maybe I can't strike it. I can grab his wrist, and now I'm back into the lock right here. And if he tries to raise up with this, I'm using the edge. Yes, he can come down and unlock all these things right here, but by the time he's doing that right here, he's already going up and over, or I'm sticking him in other spots right here, okay? Controlling the outcome of that. Again, very simple, but at the same time too, very complex because it becomes all the same play. Essentially, striking through and doing these things become, if I strike to a point on this, that's my end state. It's a thrust, it's a blow, it's the same thing. Okay? So we're going to swap arms here for a second. I'm going to talk a little bit about how we might be able to counter this. And again, personally, I think that the middle counter of all this is the same thing. He doesn't talk about that. But what he does talk about is, from this position, if we make the same position as before. So if I come in with that strike, he cross steps right here, he grabs my arm, right? Well, as I'm coming down with this, I'm in trouble. If he doesn't grab my arm, which I don't know why he wouldn't, I can still go back into the same play as I did before. If he hesitates in grabbing the arm off of the cover, right? So here, I also have the ability to push him up and over. It's the same counter about how we counter daggers and covers right here. Push the elbow. You'll notice his volta stabile is turned outward right here. So just like when he was a thrust, here he doesn't grab, he comes across this. I pop into him right here. I can do all sorts of plays off of that. The concept's the same. Turn their body with the structure of their body. So if I turn you this way right here, you're more likely to go in. Yes, you can also resist this. But if you push up and over, eventually the body's going to have to go, or it's going to get stuck in a spot that's disadvantageous, and that's when you strike with the sword and cause different things. Those are the big parts that come down to this. One last thing, I realized you didn't actually bring this up here, it has to do with the dagger, so thank you for your patience, is that he talks about how you get to the middle lock and lower locks and all sorts of things right here too. And I think honestly that's a big part when it comes to the strike from above. So as he strikes from above here, I come in with here, there's the blow. I can use, if I'm at this position here, there's nothing saying that, there's nothing saying that I can't contend to the inside here. The reality is, I don't want to go straight across this way because what you can't tell here is my arm is crossed by, it's only this right here, and I'm contending with downward motion, which is going to pull me down. So how might I get to the middle bind? As he comes in with this, maybe he retracts the sword, he retracts it, which gives me access. It's the similar things that we saw within fourth master concepts, or in second master concepts. So if you remember that process right here, if you remember with second master, how do we find out if we go into first or into third? From here, right? That's really close. If he retracts it, now I'm into first master. If he keeps pressing at me, well, now I'm into third master. Once again, seeing how we may be able to create that, and it was the structure and everything else before with the sword that teaches us that. So again, and he shoots, cross body. If he retracts the blade, I can come right here and I move right into this. I have a good cover here. It's not going anywhere. He might be going like boom, and then coming right back up, which makes that nice pasty elbow right there to get to the ligadura. If I use the same kind of concept again, and strike, he pushes through, well, I can come back over with this. I can strip his arm, and I can work my way into the lower lock. Again, I'm in that same third master concept, where I might be able to come up and under and get his arm across. Remember, I'm going to probably have to disarm the sword first, but by coming into the third master cover right here, I can cut on the arms, there's all sorts of tens right here, make him lose the blade, and from there, roll into that third master cover, okay? So that right there concludes what we have here as far as the dagger against the sword. There are two, like I said, it's really just 4 images that really to me convey a lot of information and actually draw back from dagger concepts, which makes them so incredibly interesting. These 4 positions right here really make this really it makes it a very cool dynamic. It makes it very, very, again, all you're trying to do is you're waiting for your moment. They thrust in, you're trying to get the spot where you can put the sword. If they thrust in, and maybe they decide they go for a low spot here, right? And they start turning up towards your face. Well, now we just come into the spot where you come in, once again, dealing with the Fendente line, which gives us access into the body. All you're trying to do is play around to the other side here. A person that's cutting at you might be doing something like this, thrusting, and they're not thinking so much like, what's the tactical solution here? How do I make sure that Terrence over here doesn't actually hit me with the dagger? No, he's thinking, hit him, hit him, hit him. It's not a nice situation. We have to get that out of our minds. It doesn't mean we have to fight hard in training. It just means we have to understand that this person right here is like meat. That's what they're thinking, okay? Every dirty, nasty trick. And with that being the case here, that's going to wrap up what we have here for dagger against sword in this video. So you can see with the video here, again, when I was talking about how you make the shape of the Fendente, that does not mean that the blow is coming from above right here as far as that goes. It doesn't mean that it's necessarily that thrust that goes high. It just means that the shape looks like the thing, okay? Actually, this goes a lot, Mike, into, I'm actually going to talk about Lichtenauer again here, so anyone that does Kunstfechten, this might be something for you to key in on as well. This is where I don't think that Lichtenauer is saying to defeat a guard position. I think he's talking about defending a position of motion. Looking at our Mazzari is actually how I got to a lot of that mentality space here. If you looked at the image right there, the person that's holding out the sword, that could be a thrust to someone's face. It could be a blow from above. That could be a sweeping shot that comes this side. It could be a Mazzari that turned over. It doesn't matter. It's a blow that came in a spot right here where, once again, we have a shape that looks like a Fendente is coming in. Why is that important? Because ultimately, why is that important? It has to deal with the fact that we only have really 2 plays that deal with a thrust and or a blow from above. But is that all that Fiore really wants for us? I don't believe so. And what I think right here is, why does Fiore have 2 plays that basically play off this right here, is because ultimately all 7 blows, at the end of the day, you can make that shape. You can make that shape continuously. You can make that shape in a way that is functionally possible for you to continue fighting against it. And you can utilize the same concepts and techniques right here to defeat that's what's coming at you. Anatomically, it makes sense to strike in certain ways if your intent is to kill the person, okay? If you're trying to score a point, it doesn't necessarily matter. But remember, if you're trying to wound a person that is wearing certain layers of clothes that are not like, hoodies like this that are old and worn, but he's wearing clothing that essentially is very, very robust and thick for weather and everything else at the time, it might be more likely in this case right here that you only utilize certain attacks, not because you can't attack in multiple ways, but because if you're trying to put somebody down, you have to strike with certain types of gusto to make things happen. And I think that's what this kind of points out through with us. A big part about this also too that is very important to kind of keep in mind is that ultimately, you saw in there how I can come across with this and it becomes the first play into this. So a strike, I may have caught this, rotate down, and I've created the same play. A person thrusts at me, I can push off this way, maybe brings up here, and I can collapse into this. Interestingly enough, another part about this is why, again, the dagger section, and I've said this in also my classes, personally, in my opinion, the core foundation, all of our Mazzari, is his abbracciari and his dagger sections, because everything else becomes continuations and extensions of those concepts right there. So we talk about how I catch it right here, the person I hit here, he pulls right back up. Well, if you think about that shape, if I'm coming like this and I pull back right here, we've seen that before in plays from First Master, where maybe I try to stick with the dagger, the person retracts back up to try to stick again and get more force. In this, the dagger is now swapped out, so that instead of it being, the person comes down with a sword blow, and I come up with this, Well, now that pommel essentially is simulating the same kind of structure that you would with the dagger, and that's where certain plays come into where I can go into either A, the lower lock, and or other positions of this. So those are parts about this right here that make these plays right here so universal. It's just a simple set of actions that you can't sit there and screw around with because they become circular with each other. If you're dealing with somebody who's trying to strike you with an intensity, you don't have time to say, well, will this work right here? Will this work right here? You don't have time for that. So instead, you have to take the action that's necessary, and it has to be able to flow into itself and to other things that you know in a way to contend with that. And that's what I really see right here when it comes down to dagger against sword and how we contend with that. You also saw in there too how essentially by coming up, you learn how you can push the elbow with this type of thing. The same kind of the same kind of modes that we've seen already from second master, push the elbow, fourth master. All these things are possible and credible to do against right here because it is close quarter combat. Ultimately right here, that's a part right here that I think is so incredibly important for us to kind of contend with, is that, again, your close actions, that makes or break it all. Because again, if someone's trying to hurt you, they got to get pretty close. Even if they stick you with the blade with the point, that's still really, really close. And if they miss and they're trying to get past certain things, that means that you're getting closer, which what is the thing that you have to have? Your dagger and your abratzari, because that's your go-to function. Because if a sword essentially becomes a dagger in this position, a hand becomes grappling concepts, and that's where you're going at with it here. So again, these four plays to me are really cool in the concept of they are circular, they are continual, and they are absolutely 100%, in my opinion, they're meant to flow into each other because that's what the situation is. And we're actually going to see that within the next sections right here. And personally, I think all of these sections right here, from the dagger against the sword, all the way up to the plays of the sword against the sword in one hand, you're going to see that the plays with the scabbard against dagger and the sword against the sword in one hand, personally, I think they're all a continuation system within itself that tells us great patterns that we have to approach at in the practice of arms. So with that being the case here, everybody, that's going to wrap up this video. I hope you've enjoyed this right here. If you're new to the channel, please consider liking, subscribing, and sharing with a friend. Leave a comment below. Let me know how I'm doing out there. Share your thoughts. Are you new to this practice right here? How much do you practice dagger against sword? What are your thoughts about this right here? Have you tried sharp sim concepts right here? Were you able to go back and look at the videos that are in the description right here to show how we found out the same kind of concept here of using the dagger, a sharp dagger against a sharp sword, to create these types of plays? What were you able to find out there? Please, let me know what you think out there. Love to have you on the channel and love to have this channel grow even more with you. If you are a viewer of mine, thank you so much for the support and for for your subscription. I appreciate that right here. Onward and upward is what we're doing right here as far as trying to make this channel even more. And that is not possible without viewers like you. So please continue to share that. And for everybody, please ding that bell so you know when more content comes out. With that being the case here, everybody, as always, please stay safe out there, train well, and fight on. I'll see you all soon.